This is a stimulus update and daily news report, and the price tag and date may have changed again. So originally, Nancy Pelosi said October 31st was the deadline for the infrastructure and reconciliation vote. Now it looks like Chuck Schumer is saying he wants it to be by the end of the week. And when it comes to price tag, President Biden just told progressives it's probably going to go down to $2 trillion. Social Security increase is going to announce their historically high COLA adjustment within a few days. I'll give you more details on that. When it comes to the debt ceiling being raised, I'll play you a video clip from President Biden talking about how it needs to be raised by October 18th, calling on Mitch McConnell to help out. Mitch McConnell responds saying, have Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer do it themselves, which is going to spell disaster coming soon. I'll give you more updates along the way as well. Hope you're having a terrific Tuesday. If you appreciate the fact-based, fast-paced updates, hit the like button down below. So where we last left off was Nancy Pelosi aims to pass infrastructure bill by October 31st, but according to Chuck Schumer, he wants it much sooner. So Chuck Schumer calls on divided Democrats to reach spending deal in days, not weeks. These are bold words here. What he said is, it is crucial that the House, Senate, and President come to a final agreement on the details of the Build Back Better Act as soon as possible, preferably with a matter of days, not weeks. So these are great words that he said, but we would love to see action with Congress having multiple deadlines that have passed by and nothing done yet. Of course, everyone would love to see it in days, not weeks, but we'll believe it when we see it, which is what I think a lot of people are thinking, which, it would be great, but, these are just words at this point from Congress. Also, when it comes to price tag, President Biden tells, let me get the headline here. All right, President Biden tells progressives spending package needs to be between $1.9 trillion and $2.2 trillion, coming down from that $3.5 trillion mark. So what was said here is President Biden said in a virtual meeting with a group of House progressives on yesterday, that the top line of social safety net spending package needs to come down to somewhere between $1.9 trillion and $2.2 trillion, according to two sources familiar with the call. Biden told the group, according to one of the sources, that was the range that he felt Senator Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema would accept, but did not specify further within that range. Leaving the meeting, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and White House officials Monday night, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi again said that the top line number would have to be below $3.5 trillion. Nancy Pelosi said, I'd like it to be at $3.5 trillion, but we're not. The president said that. Pay attention to what the president says. So looks like the number is coming down. The dates are changing. I'll keep you updated on what happens with that. When it comes to AOC rips a possible $1 trillion infrastructure bill, saying that's the annual budget for NYC alone, but spread thin for everyone in the U.S. So here is a video clip from AOC talking more about what needs to happen with the infrastructure and reconciliation bill moving forward.
And welcome to Face the Nation. These are interesting times here in Washington. We're used to the political battles being back and forth between Republicans and Democrats. But today, we find ourselves in an increasingly polarized debate between Democrats. The factions within the party, the progressives or liberals, and the moderates. We asked some of the key moderates on both sides of Congress to join us this morning, and they didn't take us up on our invitation. But we do begin today with a key progressive, New York Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Congresswoman, it is great to have you here in studio.
Great to be here. Thank you.
So you have this standoff right now. How real is the risk that the Democrats end up with nothing?
I know that, I believe that the entire party is committed in delivering for this country. And I know that our caucus, the House Democratic Caucus, is entirely focused on delivering for this country. But I think the question that we're having right now, and the reason why we are having this discussion right now, is because we don't want to leave communities behind. And all too often, DC politics, when we have to make a compromise, the folks that get compromised are lower income, working class families, it's healthcare, it's relief, it's communities of color. And we want to make sure that we're fighting for all of us, not just some of us.
Which is why you're using your leverage right now to hold up the other $1 trillion infrastructure bill. But the head of your caucus, the Progressive Caucus, was on another network this morning, and Representative Jayapal said $1.5 trillion is just too small. That's the number that Senate moderates, Joe Manchin in particular, want to get down to. President Biden, according to our reporting from Ed O'Keefe, our correspondent, says you're going to have to settle for about $2 trillion. Is that an acceptable ceiling for you?
So here's where I think the problem is that when we talk about top line numbers, there's a lot that is hidden in that discussion. And so the reason why this conversation shouldn't be about numbers, but it should be about what substantive programs are willing to be excluded, or
That's coming from the White House.
Yeah, but the White House isn't making the demands to exclude universal child care or universal pre-K. This is coming from the more conservative wing of the Democratic Party. And those are the conversations that we need to have, because the thing is that Washington math is notoriously funny, and you can make a $3 trillion, you can make a $1 trillion bill into $2 trillion, you can make a $3 trillion bill that helps fewer people, et cetera. And so that's why we really need to talk about the substance of this. The budget bill that House progressives are trying to fight for, the Biden Build Back Better agenda, includes universal pre-K, free community college, expansion of Medicare. We're fighting for expansion of Medicaid. And these are the things that we are saying, in addition to the very real climate threat that we have, emissions reductions, are worth standing up for.
So, but a $2 trillion ceiling, that means you're going to have to maneuver here somewhere. The head of your caucus said this morning you're looking at shorter funding periods for programs. So instead of chopping, sort of nipping and tucking.
Yes.
So what is non-negotiable there for you?
So, you bring up an excellent point, in that the fact is that we do have to compromise with the fact that we have Senator Manchin and Sinema who refuse to support certain programs for working families. And so the compromises and the options that we have before us is, do we shorten our funding programs? Do you reduce the level of funding? Do you cut programs out together? I think that one of the ideas that's out there is fully fund what we can fully fund, but maybe instead of doing it for 10 years, you fully fund it for 5 years, or you fully fund it.
What are you thinking of when you throw that out as an example?
So I think, I think there's so many different programs in the budget bill. First of all, I think it's unfortunate that we have to, even as Democrats, have a discussion about not having a child tax credit. I think it's unfortunate that we have to compromise with ourselves for an ambitious agenda for working people. I believe that free community college should be a standard. We should have K through 14. But this is one bill, and perhaps we can vote for more down the line. And we've discussed with the president about that, continuing that funding. But there's a wide variety of those programs, and I would encourage folks in their community to also reach out to their elected officials to let them know what programs they want to make sure are kept. But
what are your thoughts on what AOC has to say? If it was up to her, she'd kind of be on the same page as Bernie Sanders, where give as much as possible to as many people as possible. But is that possible? Let me know your thoughts on all of this down in the comments below. Next, let's talk about the fourth stimulus check. So when it comes to the Change.org petition, $2,000 per month to every American, it is currently at 2,914,000 signatures so far. And as usual, I want to keep it real with you. I want to be honest. There is no fourth stimulus check in that reconciliation package. That's going to be around $3.5 trillion. And with the price decreasing down to $2 trillion, the chances of a fourth stimulus check is even slimmer. So I wanted to keep it real with you. I didn't want you to plan on a fourth stimulus check, despite of what other YouTubers are saying. I just want to, be honest with you. Fourth stimulus check is not in that package. But when it comes to a Social Security increase, Social Security cost of living projection dipped slightly, but still still historically high, and we are just days away from it being announced. So at this point, the Senior Citizens League is basing a 2022 COLA, cost of living adjustment for Social Security recipients, around 6 to 6.1%. And if you look at the Social Security website right here, it says, we determined a 1.3% COLA on October 13th of 2020. We will announce the next COLA in October 2021. So that's just, I would say, about within a week or so, we're going to hear about what the new COLA adjustment is. It was 1.3% last year. This year, probably going to be 6 to 6.1%. Let me know down in the comments below. If you're on Social Security, is the 6 to 6.1% a good number for you? Is that going to help out your lifestyle and spending and money coming in the bank a little better? Let me know your thoughts on that. Next, let's talk about the debt ceiling. So the U.S. could default this fall, and it would cost 6 million jobs and wipe out $15 trillion in wealth, according to the study. We have an October 18th deadline, and still nothing is being done about it. So Biden says he cannot promise the U.S. will not breach debt ceiling limit. That's up to Mitch McConnell, which he said in a video clip I'll share with you shortly. And then Mitch McConnell responds to this. So Mitch McConnell responds to President Biden saying, tell Pelosi and Schumer to raise the debt limit on their own. Now, Chuck Schumer said that it's not possible or that it's a lengthy process to raise it on their own through reconciliation because it'll take too long, and with an October 18th deadline, which is just about a week or so away, I don't know, that deadline is approaching and it looks like things could be really bad. President Biden says here that Biden warns meteor headed to crash into U.S. economy amid debt struggle. But yet Mitch McConnell not helping here. So what Mitch McConnell said is, since mid-July, Republicans have clearly stated that Democrats will need to raise the debt limit on their own. All year, your party has chosen to pursue staggering transformational spending through unprecedented use of party line reconciliation process. I have relayed this reality to your Democrat lieutenants for 2.5 months. And then he also said, your Democratic majorities have not planned of their own to avoid default. I respectfully submit that it is time for you to engage directly with congressional Democrats on this matter. So this is a letter that came from Mitch McConnell saying that he is not going to do anything about it. But what is your opinion on this? Let me know down in the comments below. It seems that the reason why Mitch McConnell doesn't want to help is because of all the spending and maybe being left out of bills throughout the year. And it's kind of out of spite. It almost seems that his feelings are hurt, and this is his only way of power to kind of get back and say, look what you did. I didn't do this, you did it. But I don't know. Maybe I'm reading that wrong. Let me know your thoughts on what Mitch McConnell said down in the comments below. Next up is the video clip of President Biden.
So if we're going to make good on what's already been approved by previous Congresses and previous presidents and parties, we have to pay for it. Social Security benefits, the American people are promised, salaries for servicemen and women, benefits for veterans. We're going to have to raise the debt limit if we're going to meet those obligations. And raising the debt limit is usually a bipartisan undertaking, and it should be. That's what is not happening today. The reason we have to raise the debt limit is in part because of the reckless tax and spending policies under the previous Trump administration. In 4 years, they incurred nearly $8 trillion. In 4 years, $8 trillion in additional debt, in bills we have to now pay off. That's more than a quarter of the entire debt incurred now outstanding after more than 200 years. And Republicans in Congress raised the debt 3 times when Donald Trump was president, and each time with Democrat support. But now they won't raise it, even though they're responsible for more than $8 trillion in bills incurred in 4 years under the previous administration. That's what we'd be paying off. They won't raise it even though defaulting on the debt would lead to a self-inflicted wound that takes our economy over a cliff and risks jobs and retirement savings, Social Security benefits, salaries for service members, benefits for veterans, and so much more. A failure to raise the debt limit will call into question Congress's willingness to meet our obligations that we've already incurred, not new ones, we've already incurred. This is going to undermine the safety of U.S. Treasury securities, and it will threaten the reserve status of the dollar as the world's currency that the world relies on. American credit rating will be downgraded. Interest rates will rise for mortgages, auto loans, credit cards, borrowing. Folks watching at home, you should know this is the Republican position. Here's it is. They won't vote to raise the debt limit to cover their own spending. Democrats voted with them to cover that spending last 4 years, the previous 4 years. They say Democrats should do it alone. But then they're threatening to use a procedural power called the filibuster, meaning that we'd have to get 60 votes, not 50 votes, to increase the debt limit. This would block the Democrats from meeting our obligations and responsibilities to prevent Congress from raising the debt limit. So let's be clear. Not only are Republicans refusing to do their job, they're threatening to use their power, to prevent us from doing our job, saving the economy from a catastrophic event. I think, quite frankly, it's hypocritical, dangerous, and disgraceful. Their obstruction and irresponsibility knows absolutely no bounds, excuse me, especially as we're clawing our way out of this pandemic. Democrats will meet our responsibility and obligation to this country. We're not expecting Republicans to do their part. They made it clear from the beginning. We tried asking to no avail. We're just asking them not to use procedural tricks to block us from doing the job that they won't do. Meteor is headed to crash into our economy. Democrats are willing to do all the work stopping it. Republicans just have to let us do our job.
Thank you for watching.